So as Derek mentioned, as an IO psychologist, I spent about the first 15 years of my career advising, right? Consulting and advising with leaders and with organizations on how to be better leaders and how to manage their talent. And after about that 15th year, I realized that they weren't always taking my advice. Shocking, right? And even when they did take my advice and want to make the changes I was suggesting, they had a hard time doing it, right? I would come in, I'd give my consulting expertise, and then I was out the door, right? Leaving it to them to find a way to apply that advice and those recommendations to their real world situation and shift those habits and those patterns that are so ingrained and really hard to shift on your own, right? So that's why most training programs, most assessment initiatives, most 360-degree feedback that we're all familiar with, most of it fails without the support of some coaching going hand in hand with that initiative, right? Whether it's internally driven or externally provided, doesn't matter. Or whether it's having a great leader who is a great coach who can support that individual. Sustainable, meaningful change takes support, it takes help, it takes guidance, it takes a partner, right? And that's what coaching's all about. So it wasn't until I started to leverage that coach-like approach that I started to see changes in my clients. My clients were able to make that transformational change in their lives, in their leadership, and in their organizations. And that's when it became fun for me, right? So at about that 15th year, that's when I decided that it's time to go out and get my professional certification as a professional coach. So I went through a year-long intensive program and then began the process of becoming credentialed with the ICF, getting my ACC and then my PCC. So that's the journey that I've been on, and I left my consulting practice, my full-time, safe, predictable job, and went out and started my own coaching and consulting practice, where I get to work with leaders every day and see them make transformational changes in their lives. So it's very rewarding, been lots of fun for me. So I'm Nicole Polito. I am the current president of ICF Wisconsin and the founder of Gulan Polito Coaching and Consulting. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, just briefly, we won't spend a ton of time on this, I promise, who we are. So ICF Global is the largest organization that provides a standardized approach to providing a set of coaching competencies that everyone agrees are the standard for coaching competencies, providing also a standard for credentialing so that you know if you hire an ICF coach that they've gone through a rigorous credentialing process and that they adhere to these coaching competencies and this particular approach. Because as you all know, there's lots of people out there who call themselves coaches, and most of them are not truly doing coaching. And then it also provides a code of ethics. Every ICF coach adheres to a very common standard of code of ethics. So ICF Wisconsin, we as a board, we have 10 board members, Regina and I being 2 of those board members, and we have worked really hard in providing a vision and focusing on what we call our 4 C's here. And we really focus on providing our members with a sense of community. So as coaches, a lot of us are solopreneurs, or maybe we're internal coaches, and we're kind of doing this work with our clients, and it's all about the client. So providing that sense of commonality and community among coaches is one thing we try to provide. We provide connection between the coaches and the clients and the communities that they can serve. We provide opportunities for collaboration, part of why we're here today in collaboration with SHRM and other organizations and other alliances, as well as opportunities for coaches to collaborate with one another. And then, of course, we provide competency development and provide continuing education, webinars, learning communities. So if any of you are interested in learning more about coaching and building your coaching skills, that's one of the things that we provide for our members as well. So our agenda today, these are the things we're planning to cover. What is coaching? First of all, defining it and distinguishing it from some other common techniques that are often confused for coaching and called coaching when they're not really coaching. The benefits of coaching, the payoff for coaching, and then implementing a coaching culture in your respective organizations, as well as selecting the right coach and how to do that, and measuring the impact. All of you, I'm sure, have been asked in your initiatives of, what is the ROI, what's the return, we're spending this money. What are you going to get for this spend? And that's one of the things that we'll talk about here today as well. So if you can, I'd love for this to be interactive. This isn't just us talking at you. So take a look at this agenda and just turn to the person next to you, one person or three people if you have an odd number. Just talk a little bit about what do you hope to get from today? Why did you come here today? And what's your experience with coaching? And just a couple of minutes each, just to get you talking. And then if there's anything not on this agenda, we can put that out here. Okay, good. So definition of coaching. So here is the International Coach Federation's definition of coaching. So coaching is partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. Okay? What do you notice about this definition? Are there any words that pop out at you or anything that you find interesting or confusing or surprising about this definition? It's all up to them. I don't know if everyone heard that, but it's about putting the onus on the coaching client, that you are not responsible for their development. It's all about them. It's about their goals. It's their responsibility. You're there to partner with them in that process. Thank you. All right, well, let me highlight just a few words and talk about them quickly. So we talked about partnering. So it's a partnership. There's no hierarchy, right? While you can be a leader as a coach and have that hierarchy, when you're in that coaching relationship, it's not about a power dynamic. You're there to support them. It's a partnership. It's thought-provoking. It provides powerful insight, evoking change from the inside out, right? You know you're being a great coach if you ask a question and they go, I've never really thought about it like that, right? That's the most powerful moment in coaching, right? When there's that silence and there's that, oh, wow, I don't know, okay? Thought-provoking. Creative. It fosters an environment that allows exploration of new possibilities they didn't think were even possible, right? Oh my gosh, I never even considered that it could be like that. That's so out there. Well, maybe, let me think about it. Maybe we could do that. And it inspires. It helps them to see what's possible that they never thought that they could do before, right? Taking them to that next level of confidence and capability, okay? And it's personal and professional. And so this is that whole person approach. So I was trained in a integral coaching philosophy. There's a lot of other ones similar to that where it's about a whole human being, right? Even in the workplace, we don't come to the workplace as just brains walking around, right? And we come with a whole set of emotions and a whole set of physiology and chemistry and personal and professional things going on in our lives that it's really important to integrate all of that in our coaching of this human being. So let's talk about a few distinctions here, okay? So what coaching is not. Okay, coaching is not counseling, right? And there's a clear distinction between them. While there may be some overlap, there's a clear distinction. Counseling, the focus is truly on the past, primarily, and fixing some kind of wounds or some kind of disorder of some sort or challenge of some sort. That's a pain from the past. And it needs deep exploration in order to figure that out before you can move on into the future, okay? Coaching, on the other hand, is future-focused. It's about having a plan, having a vision, and moving towards that vision in an action-oriented kind of a way. That's the distinction between counseling and coaching. Okay? Consulting. So this is the distinction I had to work really hard on because it's a 180 for me. I've been a consultant for most of my career. I came in and I gave advice and I gave models and I gave frameworks and I told them about their leadership personality style and their strengths and their weaknesses, right? That's not what a coach does. A coach might help find some of that insight and find some tools and ways to get that insight. But a coach is a partner, and let's figure this out together, okay? Teaching is somewhat similar to consulting, but it's about informing. I'm going to give you some information. I'm going to teach you this information. Where coaching is about inspiring. It's not just giving information, it's building them up and inspiring them to that next level of success. Mentoring is an advising relationship. So if it's a mentoring relationship, sometimes this is the one that people misname the most, I think, is mentoring versus coaching, right? And they'll kind of call one the other, and they're really very distinct. So if you are mentoring someone, you're typically in a position that they aspire to be in, right? And you are giving them your information about how you've done things. This is what worked for me. Here's some things I've tried. Here, this worked. Maybe you could try this. Okay? So you're giving advice based on your past experience to someone who's usually more junior or usually aspires to be where you are in your role or something that you've done in the past, right? So that's mentoring, very different from coaching. And coaching then is not about what worked for me, but what would work for you? You're a different person. You're a different human being. You have different goals. You have a different setup of skills and strengths, right? And coaching is not a friend. You have a trusting, deep trusting relationship with your coach, but it's not a friendship relationship. It's very distinct. A friendship is about our mutual goals together as friends, right? Coaching is all about the individual that you're coaching. And I'm in this relationship with you to serve you, and my focus is purely on you. In a friendship, I'm focused on us, right? So if my friend has a challenge, I might say, oh, you know, it's okay, sweetie, it's all right, we'll be okay, we'll be good friends, right? That's not what a coach does. It's not protective.
So Nicole, I'm struggling. I've got this manager who is so controlling.
Oh,
And I want you to tell me, what do I need to do?
wow, that sounds really painful.
It is.
So tell me about your relationship with your dad.
Well,
Let's stop.
okay.
What am I doing there? Counseling, right? All right.
Nicole, I'm really frustrated with my boss. He's, just so controlling.
Oh, you know what? I have got a perfect 2x2 grid about upward communication that you can use for that.
What?
What am I doing? That's what a consultant. They've got models. They've got frameworks. I have used so many 2x2 models. It's unbelievable, right? That's what consultants love. All right. So,
Nicole, my boss is driving me crazy. He's just so controlling.
oh, you know, I had that situation. Remember 2 years ago when I was in my last position?
Yeah.
And I had Bob as my boss. Remember that?
Yeah.
I had the same struggle, and here's how I handled it.
Okay. Good.
So what am I doing there? That's mentoring. Okay.
That boss is still controlling. I've tried the 2x2. I've debriefed about my dad, and now I'm like, I don't think he's like Bob at all.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's rewind a little bit then, Regina, okay? So tell me about what are your goals with your boss?
Well, I really want to be able to feel like I've got some ability to get the work done in a way that I think is really maximizing my capabilities. And every time I try to do something and put it forward, it's never quite enough, and it's got to be done exactly like he wants it done.
Yeah. So what have you tried so far?
Well, I've talked to other people about it.
Okay. Yeah. Are there some things that you find that work well with him when you experience this challenge?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I find has worked is, there was that time when I really set up the expectations very early on.
Okay.
And made sure that I was really clear on what he was seeing. And when I could see it in a different way, I did go to him and talk to him a little bit about it. And,
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, he was actually pretty open to that.
Great. Good. So that's worked really well, it sounds like.
Yeah, I did.
What else might you try? What else could you add to that?
Well, I think, truthfully, I have talked to a lot of people about him. Maybe I should talk to him.
Oh, okay. So what will you do next?
You know what? I'm going to capture my thoughts. I'm going to think about how this is impacting me, and then I'm going to set up a meeting and talk with him about it.
Great. Sounds like a great plan.
Yeah.
All
Thanks.
right.
Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Regina. All right. So obviously, what was I doing there? Okay. What did you notice were some of the distinctions? Started with question, right? The other ones, the teaching, the consulting was sharing, I'm giving, right? Rather than stopping and pulling what was out of her. Yeah. Okay. Other thoughts or reactions? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, the use of empathy and having that trust and that empathy that it's clear from the start that your goal with that person is what's best for them, right? Okay. Yeah.
So what happens when they don't want to answer the questions, they want that answer?
Mm-hmm.
Do you just change them into the mentoring then?
Yeah, it's a great question. And when we get to the coaching competencies, one of those competencies is direct communication. So I think sometimes there's the assumption that coaching is just about asking questions, right? And that's not really true. If they're tapped out and if they really are struggling and you have an intuition or you have some information to put on the table, it's just a different way of putting that on the table than a teacher or a consultant does. It's putting it here and looking at it together rather than putting it here and telling you what you need to do, right? So it's a coach-like approach. You've tried to facilitate as much as possible and pull the creativity and wisdom from them. If they're still really struggling and you have an intuition, it's only honest and genuine to put that on the table, right? And that's direct communication, and that is a coaching competency. Thanks for the question. All right, good. Ready to move on? These are the ICF core competencies, and I'll just quickly run through them. They're all pretty self-explanatory, but the first step is setting the foundation and, of course, adhering to those ethical guidelines that the ICF has established. Then it's establishing the coaching agreement, and there's really this refers to two situations. You establish the coaching agreement from the start of your coaching engagement with your client, whether you're an internal coach, even whether you're their manager, whether you're an external coach, you start with what is the goal, what is the developmental goal or the learning goal, and what will success look like? That's the overall coaching agreement. Then every time you sit down with a person, you have a coaching agreement in that session, and that's their agenda, right? Figuring out, okay, well, we've got this hour together. What do you want to walk away with? What are your goals? What do you really want to work through? What would be ideal for you during this time, and always having it be their agenda, okay? That's the coaching agreement. Co-creating the relationship. So I already mentioned the key importance of establishing trust. If you don't have that, you can't go anywhere in coaching. You can be a manager, you can be a consultant, you can do you can be a mentor. You can't be a great coach if you haven't built that trust. And if your client, I use client just because that's, a common term. If you're an internal coach, you may not be using that language, but I'll just refer to it as client. But having that trust with your client, if they're not willing to open up and be vulnerable, the coaching isn't going to go very far, right? Coaching presence. Does anyone know what that word means? It's a very kind of common, there's books written about it, and executive presence is commonly referred to. What does that really even mean? What does presence mean? Anybody have an idea? Yeah.
Focus and awareness, and usually as a coach, it's on the person being coached.
Yeah, there's an awareness to presence, absolutely. What else?
The way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself.
Yeah, there's kind of a calm confidence in presence, right? That you, as a coach, need to establish in yourself first before you can be of any service to your client. And that awareness, as you mentioned, of the emotional undertones in the conversation and what's going on, and being empathetic to the emotion, but not being overcome by the emotion in the moment. A lot of that has to do with presence. Okay? Communication, active listening, powerful questioning, direct communication. We refer to some of those as well, and I'm sure you're all familiar with those, but having those communication skills is critical. And facilitating learning and results. Creating awareness, designing actions, and then there's a real tactical aspect of coaching. We typically think of coaching as very question-based and exploratory and empathetic and building trust, but at the end, you got to get to some actions, right? There is a planning and an execution piece of coaching as well.